George Pell, a free man, now acquitted. The historic judgment from the High Court. Tonight, freedom after 405 days in jail. A unanimous decision from the highest-ranked judges in the country, but it fuels plenty of anger. Coronavirus claims more lives. The source yet again, the Ruby Princess and 2 Sydney nursing homes. The Premier says social distancing rules will stay in place until a vaccine is found. Boris Johnson moved into intensive care. His condition deteriorates. The latest live from London. Sydney's looming petrol problem, why service stations may be shutting. A bomb found hidden in a Hills District building site. Tax breaks for thousands working from home. And a heartwarming story, a farmer trying to convince his daughter to stay and work on the family property.
Live from our Sydney headquarters, this is 7 News with Mark Ferguson.
Good evening. It's very hard to push coronavirus out of the headlines, but George Pell has done just that. Freed from jail after being acquitted by 7 High Court judges over his child sex conviction. Tonight, the Cardinal is in the care of nuns at a Carmelite monastery in Melbourne, free for the first time in over a year.
The long drive to freedom. Cardinal George Pell in convoy, the first journey he's taken without handcuffs in over a year. The 78-year-old released from maximum security prison 2 hours after a stunning High Court decision to overturn his child sex offence conviction. The court finding a significant possibility that an innocent person has been convicted. The 7 judges were unanimous. The jury, acting rationally on the whole of the evidence, ought to have entertained a doubt as to the applicant's guilt. In short, the jury got it wrong.
The High Court has, the highest court in the land, has made its decision, and that must be respected.
After 405 days behind bars, Cardinal Pell's chosen destination, the Carmelite monastery in suburban Melbourne, where he was greeted by a nun, their handshake abandoned as they remembered the corona protocols. Inside and gone. His only comment, a statement saying he bore no ill will towards his accuser. I did not want my acquittal to add to the hurt and bitterness so many feel. There is certainly hurt and bitterness enough. The point was whether I had committed these dreadful crimes, and I did not. But across the country, outrage that a jury decision had been overturned.
Our helpline has been inundated by survivors who are experiencing rage, fury, disgust, distress.
But his supporters lined up too.
Look, I really wouldn't want to say anything other than just let the judgment speak for itself.
The Cardinal has always maintained his innocence, and today's decision confirms his conviction was wrong.
Cardinal Pell had been convicted of the sexual assault of 2 13-year-old choir boys at St Patrick's Cathedral. Through lawyers, the father of one called today the worst possible outcome.
I've spoken to our client who is shocked, confused. He has expressed disgust at the outcome.
But also anger. The choir boy's father is convinced that the clerical abuse his son suffered led directly to his overdose. For Cardinal George Pell, the criminal proceedings may well have ended today, but the civil proceedings are about to begin.
Our client has suffered significant distress and psychological injuries.
Fears too for the well-being of victims everywhere. Victoria's Premier saying, I make no comment about today's High Court decision, but I have a message for every single victim. I see you, I hear you, I believe you. But the court ruled today, as believable as the former choir boy was, the jury should have considered whether the crime was likely. After Mass, in a busy cathedral. A judicial intervention making international headlines. The highest Catholic in the world to be convicted of such crimes, legally absolved of his criminal sins, and just days before Easter.
And Chris Reeson joins me now from outside St Mary's Cathedral. Chris, has there been any reaction yet from the Vatican?
Good evening, Mark. We made contact with the Vatican press office today. No official statement from them yet, but it appears the Pope Francis, has already made his position starkly clear. Just a couple of hours after the court decision came down today here in Australia, the Pope held Mass at the Vatican. And before that service, he made an announcement. He said, and I quote, I would like to pray today for all those who suffer unjust sentences. Now, he didn't mention Cardinal Pell by name. He probably didn't need to. But those, Mark, are words that will infuriate victims and advocates across the country. Mark.
Chris Reeson at St Mary's, thank you. Now, the High Court decision has come as a very bitter blow for victims of sexual abuse, who are now loudly questioning whether Cardinal Pell's high rank and influence helped to clear his name, and whether other victims of abuse who are yet to come forward will consider their struggle worthwhile.
At previous Pell hearings, dozens of abuse survivors and advocates protested outside court, supporting each other. Because of COVID-19 today, they could not do that and had to deal with their pain alone.
I feel gutted. It's dreadful outcome for every rape victim, and especially those who were raped as children. It's a shocking outcome.
Chrissy Foster's two daughters were abused by a Catholic priest.
It's just outrageous that this has happened. Why should it? If George Pell was just the guy next door, would he have had this happen?
John Lawrence was repeatedly molested by Christian brothers at an orphanage. Today hit him hard.
I was pretty shattered, really, pretty upset. Mostly upset for all the other survivors of child sexual abuse. And I'm sure they're feeling it all at home as well today.
Robert House called for strength from fellow abuse survivors.
We'll make sure we don't give up and continue to fight for justice for ourselves and for anyone who has been put in this position.
Also at previous court hearings, Pell had dozens of supporters. Today, they said an innocent man was put through 3 years of horror.
I think that the authorities here have not only introduced the person who was convicted, but have created enormous pain for the accuser.
And today's judgment surprised many legal experts. They say it's very rare for the High Court to overrule a jury verdict upheld by a state appeal court.
The statistics are were very much against Cardinal Pell going into this, but he's beaten those odds.
And at St Patrick's Cathedral tonight, 2 white ribbons hang for the 2 alleged victims. Nick McCallum, 7 News.
To the corona crisis now, and the Premier has warned social distancing rules will need to stay in place until there's a virus vaccine, and that's possibly 18 months away. New South Wales has reported 3 more deaths today, 2 of the victims from nursing homes.
Sydney nursing homes mourning more losses from coronavirus. Relatives of residents surprised by the news today.
I've only been told about 1, so I didn't know there were 2.
A 90-year-old man, the second COVID victim from this Bankstown aged care facility in lockdown.
They're actually very secure, like the residents aren't even allowed out of their rooms to mix with each other, as well as no one allowed to go in.
The virus death toll from the Dorothy Henderson nursing home is now 6 after a 90-year-old man died and a female passenger from the Ruby Princess, aged 87. The state's COVID death toll, 21.
The virus is so contagious.
But the number of new infections continues to fall down to 49, 2,682 cases. The biggest concern, 406 have no known source, unless there is more testing done.
I can't put my hand on my heart today and say that there is no broader transmission.
Symptomatic testing now approved in Waverley, Wallara, Dee Why, Manly, Ryde and Macquarie Park, but it may be enough for social restrictions to be in place even longer.
I do need to make it very clear to the community that social distancing at a bare minimum will be part of our lives until there is a cure, until there is a vaccine.
Starting with the Easter long weekend, holidaymakers warned, stay away from the regions.
You are not welcome. You cannot visit this weekend.
If you've got the whole family with you and the caravan on the back, then you may just get a $1,000 ticket.
A battle first waged here in nursing homes, now across the community, until there's a vaccine. The state government today pledging $35 million to local researchers to help find one.
We want our best and brightest working their guts out to make sure that we find a vaccine as soon as possible.
And from another battlefront today, 200 Australian soldiers back from the Middle East, straight into hotel isolation, like everyone else.
Personally, my family's well informed. They understand what's going on.
And a police operation tomorrow here at the Sofitel Hotel will repatriate 288 travellers who have concluded their mandatory isolation period. Now they'll be given a final health check, help with their plans to get home either here or interstate, and of course asked to observe social isolation rules. Mark?
OK, Chris Marr in the city. Thank you. There's also a political crisis in the UK tonight, with Prime Minister Boris Johnson moved into intensive care as he battles COVID-19. He's not on a ventilator, but his condition has gone downhill to the point where he needs oxygen to help his body fight the virus.
In hospital just a kilometre from his Downing Street office, Boris Johnson is a global leader in intensive care during a global health emergency.
During the course of this afternoon, the Prime Minister's condition worsened, and on the advice of the medical team, he was moved in to a critical care unit.
The 55-year-old's health deteriorated 24 hours after being admitted. Tonight, he's next to other COVID-19 patients in one of Britain's oldest and most respected hospitals.
And we extend our deepest concerns and expressions of support for Prime Minister Johnson at this very difficult time for him and his family.
Johnson's pregnant fiancée can't visit. She too has coronavirus symptoms.
Americans are all praying for his recovery. He's been a really good friend. He's been really something very special, strong, resolute, doesn't quit, doesn't give up.
The British PM had been running the country from his apartment, alone in isolation. He didn't stop even after being sent to hospital, but little rest jeopardised his condition. Hundreds of people are dying from the virus each day here in the UK. The health system is under enormous pressure and every bed is critical. Doctors say Boris Johnson wouldn't be in ICU unless it was absolutely necessary. Johnson has now allocated decision-making powers to Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab.
This is, in modern times, utterly uncharted territory.
Behind the scenes, MPs are shocked, uncertain and uneasy ahead of nervous hours and days to come.
And let's go to Sarah Greenouch in London now. Sarah, it's morning there. Did Boris Johnson's condition improve at all overnight?
Mark, one of his senior ministers is right now doing the breakfast TV rounds here, saying that there has been no change in his condition. When Johnson was moved to ICU 14 hours ago, he was officially conscious at the time, but COVID-19 is just so unpredictable. The 55-year-old dad is fit and has a history of otherwise good health. The Queen is being kept up to date on the PM's condition by Downing Street. It's expected that we will get the latest once Her Majesty is briefed. Mark?
Sarah Greenouch in London, thank you. Scott Morrison has warned Australians we risk undoing everything we've achieved if we travel over Easter. The Prime Minister urged everyone to stay inside this long weekend, as official modelling for the virus outbreak reveals we're on the right track.
An Easter message to the nation like none before.
Stay at home.
Declaring the sacrifices already made are working.
We have so far avoided the horror scenarios that we have seen overseas.
But that easing social distancing restrictions now could undo all that and worse.
We must keep the tension in the cord.
Advice guided by government modelling released for the first time. Broad projections based on international data, much of it unreliable, much from China.
There is no map for this. We are in uncharted territory, and Australia is in a position that many countries would wish to be in.
With just 0.025% of the population infected, and of those a death rate of 0.7%, among the lowest in the world. But with transmissions from overseas travellers falling, localised outbreaks are the new challenge.
The one that worries us most of all is the community transmission in Sydney.
A national cabinet's agreed to tough new tenancy laws, forcing commercial landlords to slash rents for struggling businesses. Cutting rents in a proportion matching the tenants' lost revenue, half the reduction waived, the other half to be repaid over 2 years.
Banks also must come to the table here and provide the support to the landlords.
As RAAF jets ferry in MPs for tomorrow's one-day session, arriving state by state, just a third of the parliament.
We're looking for solutions, not arguments. What matters is outcomes here.
That means the $130 billion JobKeeper bill flying through with support from both sides. Mark Riley, 7 News.
The death toll from the Ruby Princess fiasco has risen again, an elderly man from Tasmania becoming the 14th victim. Tonight we can reveal some infected passengers were forced to pay huge medical bills before they were let off the cruise ship.
Tony Londero was the first COVID-19 patient stretchered off the Ruby Princess, now recovering at home in northern New South Wales.
If I hadn't got off the ship in that ambulance, I think I would be dead.
Tragically, the elderly woman medevaced after him is dead. She was in the hospital room next to Tony.
How hard was that? I really don't want to comment because it was, terrible.
The 62-year-old enduring financial pain too. He says Carnival Australia wouldn't let him off the ship until he paid $8,500 for 3 days medical care.
It cleaned our bank account, right out our credit cards as well.
And he wasn't alone.
If you're gravely ill, and like the lady that died, her husband, he was on a walking stick, running around trying to get credit cards.
Those with travel insurance can claim the money back, but after our inquiries, Carnival Australia said all medical fees paid for the treatment of respiratory and flu-like symptoms on board will be reimbursed. A 14th Ruby Princess death was confirmed in Tasmania today. Manslaughter, a possible charge against anyone found responsible.
It is too early to say, but they would be serious charges.
And a new blame game has emerged within the state government. Ports Minister Andrew Constance's own colleagues accusing him of not revealing crucial information about the extent of illness on board.
And my colleagues would do well to remember the pain that people are going through.
I'm not going to be dragged into the he said, she said of any issue.
My message today to the Premier is please stop the cover-up.
Alex Hart, 7 News.
More of our coastline is now off limits, with the northern beaches shutting down for Easter. Police had to order people off the sand when it became too crowded at the weekend, and they're warning if behaviour doesn't change, permanent closures could follow.
At Manly today, social distancing was enforced on horseback. From this morning, the northern beaches were officially closed after parts of it were declared coronavirus hotspots. Manly, North Steyne and Queenscliff beaches are shut, along with Shelley Beach and Dee Why. But there were still plenty of crowds in the water and on the sand.
I can't believe the amount of people that think that they'll just come down here anyway and will sit on the beach. I mean, we'd love to do that too.
Get in, get out, stay there for exercise only, otherwise stay at home.
This means everything must be exercise, no sunbaking or even sitting down. Council workers were out early, taping off tables and chairs and swapping out street signs. Parking now restricted to just 1 hour to make sure people don't linger.
If you do not comply, you will be asked to move on. These restrictions are in place to protect the health and safety of you and the wider community.
With the Easter long weekend approaching, police and council is warning everyone not to push their luck on the northern beaches, or more drastic measures may have to be put in place. Like the ring of steel surrounding beaches in the eastern suburbs after crowds ignored warnings.
I reckon it's only a matter of time if people aren't sort of doing the right thing that they'll shut the whole thing down.
If there was ever a time to prove the northern beaches are different, it's now. Andrew Denny, 7 News.
Our share market has ended the day in the red after the Reserve Bank decided to keep interest rates on hold. Network finance editor Gemma Acton joins me now. So Gemma, rates remain at these record lows.
Yes, Mark, the RBA has stuck to its guns after saying last year it would be very reluctant to drop the cash rate below this level. The economic crisis triggered by coronavirus wasn't enough to change its strategy, but it did say unemployment is now expected to reach its highest level in many years. After a strong start, the ASX 200 today spent most of the session slipping lower, finishing down eventually by 0.65%. But our dollar enjoyed a small boost after the RBA decision. It's now buying around 61.6 US cents. Mark.
OK, Gemma, thank you. Some petrol stations could close as demand dries up because of the corona lockdown. While some Sydney servos have been shut down for redevelopment, the industry is concerned about the drop-off in customers. Caltex expects demand for petrol to fall by up to 50% compared with last year. Diesel could be down by almost a third, jet fuel by 90%.
The only thing crazier than panic buying toilet paper would be to go out and try and panic buy petrol.
Experts predict the price of petrol will continue to drop. Medical teams working on the front line of this emergency will now have access to free accommodation. The pledge, worth nearly $60 million, is designed to keep their loved ones protected at home.
Not all heroes wear capes. Some wear scrubs and masks. Others drive around in these.
I can't say enough how proud we are of our frontline staff across the board, but especially our health workers.
And the government is showing its appreciation with a $58 million handshake. Frontline health workers such as nurses, doctors and paramedics will be offered free accommodation so they don't pass on the virus to their families.
We know that every nurse, every paramedic has different situations, and we want to make sure they've got options available to them.
It's the government's way of protecting the protectors.
We do our jobs gladly and are there to care for the public, but like all of us are worried about bringing that virus home and putting our families at risk.
So, how does it all work? Well, once it's up and running, a nurse working a block of shifts, for example, will simply book themselves into a participating hotel close to the hospital, and the government will pick up the tab.
As well as health worker accommodation, extra funding will go towards medical research and vaccine trials, getting products to market and boosting domestic supply chains.
We've got some of the best researchers both in the private sector and the public sector.
Their research critical to ultimately giving our frontline heroes the break they need. Peter Fegan, 7 News.
Time now for a check on our weather with David Brown.
Thanks very much, Fergo. Cool and mostly cloudy today as forecast. And I have some good news on a seasonal scale. Yes, the latest monthly rainfall outlook paints right through to September above average rain. Yes, it's expected in the months ahead, which is great for winter and spring cropping. Of course, rain like this is drought-breaking for most farming communities. That said, in the short term, the showers along the coast are expected to spread out, and you'll notice some rain unfolding across the interior Thursday into Good Friday. As we drill a little bit deeper, grab a brolly tomorrow. Yes, as we fly into the Sydney metro area, we're expecting showers for a good part of the day. And of course, I'll have more top of the hour, Fergo.
Righto, David, thank you. As the US hits a grim new milestone, there may be some hope tonight. Next, Wall Street rebounds. Could the crisis there be reaching its peak? Also, another fatal shark attack off our coast, a young wildlife officer killed. No Year 13 HSC students assured they will graduate this year. Tributes to a Bond favourite dead at 94. And one of the league's biggest stars uses hard work to build his fitness as the game edges closer to a return date. Welcome back. The United States has passed a tragic milestone, 10,000 coronavirus deaths, with another 360,000 Americans now infected. Despite warnings, those numbers will drastically increase this week. The US share market surged overnight, buoyed by signs that the peak of the crisis in America may also mark the beginning of the end.
From the opening bell, things were looking up. Wall Street recording its best day in a fortnight on optimism. America's coronavirus crisis is reaching its peak.
And we're going to have a rough week. We're going to have maybe a little more than a week. But there's tremendous light at the end of that tunnel.
New York seeing a possible plateau, the daily death toll flat over 2 days.
The possible flattening of the curve is better than the increases that we have seen.
The number of new admissions to hospital and intensive care dropping.
You can call it the bump, you can call it the hill, you can call it the mountain, you can call it whatever you want to do it. It's very flat.
The grim reality is with around 600 people now dying every day in New York, hospital morgues are full. Temporary morgues like this one are filling up. With funeral homes swamped, if the death rate doesn't start falling, they may have to turn to a contingency plan that would see people temporarily buried in city parks.
The state taking no chances, extending its lockdown until April 29th, doubling fines for social distancing breaches.
You put a burden on all sorts of other people.
While America stays apart, the world will come together for an international virtual concert headlined by Paul McCartney, Elton John and Lady Gaga.
We want to celebrate and encourage the power of the human spirit.
And the courage of healthcare workers on the front line. In New York, Paul Kadak, 7 News.
A shark has attacked and killed a Queensland Parks and Wildlife officer at the southern end of the Great Barrier Reef. The 23-year-old ranger was working in waters off Northwest Island when he was mauled yesterday afternoon. He was airlifted to hospital with critical leg, hand and elbow injuries, but died late last night. A second Sydney teenager has been found guilty of plotting to carry out an Islamic State-inspired terror attack. He was 16 when he was arrested at a Bankstown prayer hall in 2016, along with his accomplice. Knives were found in his bag. A previous jury had failed to reach a verdict. His accomplice has already been sentenced to 16 years in jail. Coronavirus is creating plenty of extra stress for Year 12 students who are already under immense pressure. But today, students have been reassured they will receive an ATAR University entrance ranking and will not have to repeat the school year.
Shameen is in her final year of school.
This is where I do all my online classes.
Missing out on the usual milestones of Year 12 while navigating the stress of final exams.
I'm continuing my studies, but yeah, I don't know how it'll play out.
Today, some assurance.
There will be no Year 13. There will be no mass repeating. Every student will get an ATAR certificate.
Federal and state education ministers agreeing they would work closely with universities and vocational training on how entry scores would be calculated. Concessions could also be made for students who struggle at home.
We will take into account those who might not be able to access the technology like others do.
We obviously want to ensure that parents don't have to choose between their children's education and having a job.
Today, the Victorian government announced it would extend the school year for its Year 12 students by moving their final exams to December. It's unclear if New South Wales will follow. For now, students are being encouraged to stay home and keep studying for the HSC. For Shameen and the 180,000 other Year 12 students, it's back to the books, with only one other classmate to share her final year with.
My sister's just next door.
Miley Hogan, 7 News.
British actress Honor Blackman, who made her name starring opposite Sean Connery in the James Bond film Goldfinger, has died of natural causes.
My name is Pussy Galore.
I must be dreaming. She was also well known for her role in the 1960s TV hit The Avengers. Honor Blackman was 94. A Baulkham Hills worksite has been shut down following an alarming discovery. Next, police disarm a homemade bomb planted on a crane. Also, as tens of thousands lose their jobs, which companies are profiting during the pain? A plea from stranded Aussies on board a ship with 80 confirmed cases. And social media unites to send a powerful message to a young girl after a plea from her farmer dad. That's next. Welcome back. A major police operation shut down part of Baulkham Hills today after a homemade bomb was found at a construction site. Let's go live to Laura Banks with exclusive details. Laura, you've received a photo of the bomb planted in a crane.
That's right. Good evening, Mark. Well, when the driver discovered the device in the crane this morning, bomb squad specialists were immediately called in. Now, they spent several hours working to disarm the device. The hazmat crews, the dog squad, riot squad were then called in. 4 forensic crews were also called in. And the $200 million development site tonight remains a crime scene. Now, its developer, Dildum, has been in the headlines in recent years for owing subcontractors millions of dollars. Now, sources have told 7 News that it's one of these disgruntled subcontractors who hasn't been paid in 6 months that is behind the device being planted today. Now, I spoke to Dildum a short time ago. Why would someone scale a crane and plant a bomb?
Not sure what you're talking about.
It's a pretty scary thing to happen.
Could
have killed a whole bunch of your workers. So, Mark, a shocking story that really could have ended in disaster.
Laura Banks, thank you. A Sydney Uber driver who raped a teenage girl who fell asleep in his car has been jailed for 8.5 years but could walk free in 6. In February, owner Didaglu was found guilty of attacking the 17-year-old in a Bondi Beach car park. The judge found the married father showed little remorse after taking advantage of the teenager's vulnerability. 2 off-duty police officers are among the latest people fined for ignoring the state's lockdown laws after attending a weekend birthday party. And a Sydney woman banned from the Star Casino has been caught without a reasonable excuse, found outside the venue.
Carmel Livingston free on bail and facing a coronavirus charge she claims to know nothing about.
Do you now understand that you have to stay at home?
Who's saying that? I'm sorry.
The government. Police say the 39-year-old is banned from the Star Casino, and despite the COVID-19 pandemic forcing its closure, Livingston was allegedly found there late last night, defying orders to stay at home.
Am I banned from the casino? As far as I know, I'm not.
Police say you've been banned since February.
Oh, okay.
In the city, a brothel operator and 2 workers were fined $7,000 for taking working from home to a whole new level. The owner shut down when the new regulations came in, but was allegedly found operating in this apartment a stone's throw from Day Street Police Station. Over the weekend, 2 law enforcers allegedly broke the social distancing rules. A 27-year-old police officer hosted his birthday party here at the Meriton in the city, inviting 4 others, including another police officer. All 5 were hit with a $1,000 fine.
It only takes a handful of people to do the wrong thing, and it can spread the virus through the community.
Seemingly much quicker than the life-saving health orders. Natasha Squarey, 7 News.
The federal government has finally answered calls to bring home Australian citizens on board the Greg Mortimer cruise ship stranded off Uruguay. A flight will take passengers, including those who've tested positive to COVID-19, to Melbourne, where they will be taken to a hotel for isolation.
Everybody is extremely disappointed that the Australian government has not seen fit to act a great deal faster than it has.
The ship has more than 80 confirmed cases. While thousands of businesses have been forced to close, putting employees out of work, some companies are trying to turn a quick profit during this pandemic. The Small Business Minister is now calling on those refusing to relax fees and charges, or worse, price gouging, to give everyone a fair go.
Their bistro at the local RSL was forced to shut, but they're still paying staff, hoping to one day reopen.
We are paying from our pocket at the moment.
Xero accounting software is valued at nearly $10 billion, but its customers have been begging for their subscriptions to be cut or waived. They can't cancel them because they need the data to apply for government assistance.
It will be a very good decision by Xero if they do and help us in this crisis.
In a statement, Xero told 7 News, "We are unable to provide subscription relief at this time." The Minister has taken the extraordinary step of writing to Xero.
The whole notion of we're all in this together is dependent on people taking the view, I'm not in this to make a buck.
Also among those planning for pandemic profits are meal delivery companies, petrol stations and retailers charging exorbitant amounts for in-demand items. While some seem to think the pandemic either doesn't affect them or provides an opportunity to profit, there is help for small businesses teetering on the brink of collapse, from payments of up to $100,000 from the government to the JobKeeper program and new measures on commercial leases announced today.
There are laws in other countries that can stop price gouging in emergency situations like the one we have now, and we should be looking at solutions to this problem.
Brian Seymour, 7 News.
Tens of thousands of Australians have been forced to work from home as social distancing becomes the new reality. Next, the simple claims that can deliver big deductions at tax time. Also predicting who'll need intensive care from a simple blood test. A farmer's appeal for his daughter why life on the land is not just for boys.
Cool and cloudy today, showers tomorrow, Easter weather soon.
This is like nothing we have ever faced.
We are going to be tested, but we all need to play our part.
Stay calm, don't panic, be patient.
Look out for each other.
And most importantly,
listen to the experts.
Stay inside,
wash your hands,
practice social distancing.
Don't impact my ability
to save a life.
It might be yours that I'm trying to save.
Stay at home.
And every day,
we will come to work for you.
Please help us.
Let's flatten that curve.
Checking the markets now, and the ASX 200 was unable to sustain its early gains, closing down 34 points. The info tech sector, the top performer. Flight Centre posted gains of 12% despite coronavirus crippling the industry. And our dollar is buying 61.86 US cents. Fuel prices are continuing to fall across Sydney as demand dries up. The average in the city is $1.12.6 a litre, with prices expected to fall further. We found regular unleaded as cheap as 83.8 cents at Clovelly. Social restrictions have led to a boom in alcohol deliveries as more Australians stay at home. Demand has skyrocketed 300% during the COVID-19 shutdown. It's not just online. Retailers BWS and Dan Murphy's have also reported a surge in demand. Sydney scientists are appealing for help as they seek to develop a blood test aimed at predicting which COVID patients would need intensive care and which could safely recover at home. That would help free up critical hospital beds and ventilators. A crowdfunding campaign has been launched to help fast-track the process. With restrictions forcing more and more Australians to work and study from home, many are forking out big bucks on their DIY office. But experts say there are some simple steps you can take now to make sure you cash in at tax time.
At the home of the Home Office, business is booming as Australians keep their social and professional distance.
Probably around $800 or $900. I've had to buy computer screens, desks, chairs.
But there are ways to recoup those costs come tax time.
In excess of $1,000.
Put simply, you can claim deductions on anything you use to do your job. Office furniture, computers, tablets, phone and internet bills. Then there are the smaller ticket items like paper, stationery and cleaning materials, even wear and tear on carpet, curtains and light fittings. As for running expenses like heating, cooling and lighting, the ATO is offering a special COVID-19 flat rate of 80 cents an hour.
I'd keep track of my expenses and then also my usage.
With your home now your second place of work, you can also claim car expenses whenever you drive between there and your actual office. At 66 cents a kilometre, experts say keeping a travel log is a no-brainer. But beware the biggest trap of all, capital gains tax. If you own your home, making certain claims now could cost you big bucks in the long run. The best advice to keep the ATO off your back?
It's just receipts, receipts, receipts.
Making sure tax time is time well spent. Mark Mooney, 7 News.
It started with a simple tweet from a dad when the farmer's young daughter said she couldn't follow his footsteps because farming's only for boys. The internet took over. Messages came flooding in from women on the land. Don't miss that heartwarming story soon on 7 News. But first, Mel is here with sport. Hi there, Mel. It seems common sense has prevailed at Rugby League HQ.
Hello, Fergo. Yeah, it looks that way amid rumours the restart of the competition would include starting from scratch. More on that and what some NRL stars are getting up to next. Plus, fresh from self-isolation, Chris Lynn cast doubts over the future of this year's T20 World Cup right here in Australia. And the Sydney Swan improvising and making the most of life in limbo as he adds to the growing list of sports stars doing great things in the community. Welcome back. The man heading up the committee working to restart the NRL season, Wayne Pearce, has told 7 News he hopes to announce a blueprint on Thursday. As debate over what the competition will look like rages on, Knights superstar Kalyn Ponga is getting his hands dirty.
These Knights stars have reverted to good old-fashioned hard work to keep fit in isolation.
Come on, brah!
Best mates Kalyn Ponga and Connor Watson quickly realised the labouring life isn't for them after being roped into some hard yard work by Kalyn's dad.
He tells us we're coming over to do half the job and then makes us do double what we're meant to do. We sucked at the start. Like, Connor was using his hands to pick up the dirt and stuff, so...
The NRL has ruled out stripping teams of the competition points they earned in the opening 2 rounds before the competition was shut down. Isolation is keeping players sheltered from the constant speculation about what the competition will look like when it resumes.
We don't wake up in the morning, go on our phone to check, what the latest is.
Consuming a lot of energy for people to be fixated on that stuff, so...
We don't do it.
Wayne Pearce, the man heading up the mission to restart the season, says an announcement is close.
Hopefully Thursday we'll have a plan in place that we'll be able to announce what that looks like.
For now, the players can focus on the little things, like staying in their captain's good books on his birthday.
Happy birthday, Seth. Love you. Oh, Mitchell.
Happy birthday, Mitchell.
Michelle Bishop, 7 News.
Aussie T20 gun Chris Lynn says this year's World Cup should be postponed or scrapped altogether. Australia is due to host the tournament from October 18, 12 months before India hosts another T20 World Cup. Lynn thinks there's now only room for one in a world changed by coronavirus.
I think India will be the deciding factor in that. Obviously, they're the powerhouse of cricket, so whatever Virat Kohli says probably goes.
Probably right. Well, Lynn's just ended 14 days isolation after returning from the Pakistan League. The world's oldest golf tournament is the latest casualty of COVID-19. The Open Championship, due to be held in July at Royal St George's in Kent, is cancelled.
You can trust me when I say the Claret Jug is going to be in safe hands for another year.
The other three majors have been rescheduled. The PGA Championship will begin on August 6th, the US Open on September 17, and the Masters at Augusta National on November 12. The AFL is considering resuming with quarantine hubs to mixed reviews from players and coaches. In the meantime, Swans and Giant Stars are staying ready and playing a key role in the community.
For now, Luke Parker's days start like this.
Not my ideal choice of exercise. I like running, chasing a football.
After one game, they're back to the grind of an off-season.
It's nice getting the exercise done in the morning. You don't have any more anxieties for the rest of the day. So now I get to walk around with this one.
After walking the dog, the Swans co-captains in Marrickville, joining former Socceroo Craig Foster's Play for Lives initiative.
It's stocking food and giving them back to the community with it, whether it's homeless people, Indigenous communities, people on the streets.
They've called for sports people and clubs to fill the void of retiree volunteers who drive the charity workforce.
We're going to bring hope, we're going to bring inspiration, we're going to bring resilience, we're going to bring the sporting spirit.
You just try to make it work any way that you have to.
The neighbours might be worrying about Phil Davis. Between the exercise bike and Pilates sessions, the Giants are staying close.
We check in with the whole group about twice a week just to stay connected.
And quarantine hubs are suddenly a hot topic.
Hey Ken. Hi mate.
All good. What's going on?
The AFL's due to update clubs on resumption in 20 days. Till then, the grind continues. Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
So, Fergo, the players are improvising and managing to do some great things in the community, having some fun as well. And in the meantime, Nick Kyrgios has posted on Instagram, if you need any help, just send him a private message on Instagram and he'll do his best.
He might get a few of those. Good on you, Mel. Thank you.
Thanks.
A farming family has used the power of social media to convince their daughter she has a future on the land. Young Sylvie believes she couldn't be a farmer because she wasn't a boy. But rural women from around the world were quick to show her what was possible.
She's growing up in country Western Australia, but 3-year-old Sylvie Fullwood doesn't think she has what it takes to follow in the footsteps of 4 farming generations.
I'm picking barley out for you.
So her dad took to Twitter for help after Sylvie told him she wasn't going to be a farmer because she was a girl, not a boy. The response immediate as rural role models flooded in.
Hi Sylvie, my name is Renee and I'm a food and fibre producer in central Queensland.
I'm driving this tractor and I'm a girl. I have cattle and I have sheep and I run all the grazing on this farm and I'm a girl.
Encouraging messages sent from far and wide.
You can do whatever you want to do, girl.
We didn't realise we'd get so many responses from all over the world of so many amazing women.
Along with photos like these of women working the land across the country.
Try and help our girls understand that they've got the same opportunity.
No word yet on whether it swayed Sylvie's decision.
I myself would love to be able to hand the farm over to one of the girls or all of the girls.
But she has plenty of time to change her mind.
If you're a farmer, I bet you'll be a fantastic one.
Bye.
See ya. Jessica Ridley, 7 News.
Yeah, good luck, Sylvie. David is back with the latest forecast now. Brandy, cool today. What about tomorrow?
Cool and wet, Fergo. Can you believe it? Showers are on the way. Your forecast straight after the break.
Tonight, 7 News headlines. George Pell is enjoying his first night of freedom after his child sex conviction was quashed by the High Court. 3 more people have died in New South Wales, as well as a 14th Ruby Princess passenger. And Boris Johnson remains in intensive care in London. His condition will be updated after the Queen has been briefed. Now, the latest on Sydney's weather, here's David.
Thanks very much, Fergo. Well, it's been cool and cloudy today. You'll need a brolly tomorrow. Now, today's temperature profile, close to the April average. There it is on your screen. The top, just shy of 22 degrees, and that happened during lunch. As we go to the suburbs, it was a cloudy day. Most maxima, low 20s at best. And yep, that's a sign of things to come over the next couple of days. As we go to the satellite, we've got some isolated showers continuing to clip northern parts of our coast at the moment. During the next 24 hours, we're expecting the middle part of our atmosphere to destabilise. There's an upper level trough sliding in there. In response to that, convection should start to build, most of it during the afternoon. Some scattered showers are on the way. Might even see the odd thunderstorm over the southern ranges. But in the medium term, we're expecting some good rainfall totals to build across the interior. The bulk of this unfolds during Thursday and Good Friday, potentially up to 25 millimetres. But look, nationwide tomorrow, some showers are on the way for Brisbane. A warm top, though, around 27 degrees. As we head south into Melbourne, it's cool, cloudy, 19 degrees. Adelaide should be generally fine at around 21 degrees. But check out the southwest corner of WA. Perth, again, another day of exceptional heat for this time of year. Yes, tomorrow around 33 degrees. As we head north into Broome, some storms are likely, also 33 degrees. Back home, we'll see those scattered showers popping up in the east, coming to a head, well, during the afternoon and persisting into the early part of the evening. As you can see from the forecast maxima for Wednesday, a cool day is expected. Of course, the same can be said for our suburbs. As we have a closer look at the forecast, low 20s at best, with showers increasing during the afternoon, up to 10 millimetres. That's the forecast. As we go to the coast, we'll see south to southeasterly winds. They should run at around 10 to 15 knots for a good part of the day. For the city, a few passing showers and a forecast top there of 21 degrees. Let's move on to that 7-day outlook. A few more showers are likely on Thursday. Those showers will clear during Good Friday. As for the remainder of the Easter break, it's fine and generally sunny. That's the latest weather, Fergo.
Righto, Brandy, thanking you. And that is 7 News for this Tuesday. We'll have updates for you throughout the evening, and the latest will be back at 8:30. I'm Mark Ferguson from all the team. I hope you have a great night.